Okay. So remind me, I just punched the button, right?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order here for the Girdwood Board of Supervisors regular meeting, June 15th, 7 o'clock. My name is Jennifer Wingard. I'm co-chair of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. Girdwood Board of Supervisors is subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act, as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25-Public Meetings. Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Conduct. Would you like to do the honors?
I've been looking forward to this for.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that.
The Girdwood Board of Supervisors acknowledges the indigenous peoples of Alaska whose land we reside on. The community of Girdwood, situated between the areas known to be Dena'ina and Aluktuk homeland, respects the people who were stewards of this land for generations. We commit to the continued stewardship of this land and are grateful to be a part of a wider community that seeks to maintain a sustainable use of Girdwood Valley for present and future peoples.
Okay, have staff do the roll call.
Sure. Brian Burnett,
Here.
Nick Cruz,
Here.
Kelly Yokanek.
Online.
Thank you. And Amanda Tuttle,
Did not.
not hearing her. And Jennifer Wingard.
For now, if the public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment, please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help discuss, stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public. Keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Be respectful of everyone's opinions. The Girdwood Housing and Economic Committee has 2 vacant positions to be filled by registered voters in the Girdwood Valley service area. To be considered for appointment, please email gboss@muni.org. The Girdwood Parks Master Plan project is continuing the approval process. Planning and zoning hearing is scheduled July 6th. You can find out more information at www.girdwoodparksplan.com. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to move we approve the agenda for this evening as presented.
All second.
Thank you. Did we have any change on that, or that already got changed? There was the muni.
The duplication item we've handled in the revised agenda. I don't know if anybody had anything else.
Okay, so do we have any changes or comments about the agenda? If not, I'll go with a general assent. We'll call that approved. And I would also entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
I'd like to move we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
All second.
Okay, if we have no comments or discussion on that, I'm going to take that as I sent and call those minutes approved. Do we have a presentation? Oh, yes, Nate's online. Hey, Nate.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors and the community of Girdwood for allowing me to come and speak with you this evening. My name's Nate Bolts, and it is an honor to serve as Executive Director for Challenge Alaska. I wish I was there in the community room with all of you this evening, but fortunately, I had the privilege of watching my nephew graduate from college down in Eugene, Oregon this afternoon. Please pardon my absence from the meeting itself. I just wanted to come in and speak with all of you about the plans that Challenge Alaska has over the course of the next couple of summers. Challenge Alaska has called Girdwood home since 1980. It's hard to believe that we built the Kyle Center back in 1993, and according to my math, that is over 30 years ago now. we have taken immaculate care of the facility, but I don't think we ever thought that we'd be serving as many people as we are now in 2026. And quite frankly, the building is starting to show its age, and it's time that we make a sizable investment in our facility. So I'm proud to share that this summer we're going to begin our renovation and expansion project for the Girdwood facility. This project is going to take our facility from roughly 5,224 square feet up to 10,090 square feet. This project is going to be undertaken in 2 phases. This summer, it will be phase 1, which is going to primarily consist of preliminary utility work, as well as the excavation and construction of the new foundation and footings for the expansion area of the building. Then in summer of 2027, we are going to hit the ground running with the vertical construction of the renovation and expansion of the facility. After we finish the construction project in fall of 2027, it is going to be business as usual for the Girdwood community, meaning that I know that many of you have come to rely on that beautiful facility as an additional community center for many of our nonprofit partners, as well as memorial services and weddings and Christmas parties and you name it. So we're not planning on changing anything about that. There's just going to be more of the facility, and it's going to be much easier for us to be able to accommodate external user groups. And, I'm so thrilled that we are going to be building Challenge's new home for generations to come. We have an amazing project team lined up for this for this task. The design work has been undertaken by Bettesworth North Architects and Planners, and the construction is going to be undertaken by Ironwood Waterson joint venture, which did some amazing projects throughout the Glacier Valley, including the new health clinic, as well as Little Bears Playhouse and the Nordic Spa, to name a few. So with that, I'd also like to mention that this is still very much an active fundraising project. So at the end of this presentation that I think Margaret and Kyle are scrolling through for all of you, there is a link for you to find out more information about the project in general, as well as ways that you can potentially support the project. But basically, over the course of the last 30 years, we've outgrown the space. The accessibility and inclusion isn't, today isn't what it was 30 years ago. So we need to make some improvements there in the facility as well. And we just can't wait to show you all of our hard work as we make this come to fruition. With that, I'd love to field any questions from the room or online. Or if you'd rather, please feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach me at nate@challengealaska.org, and I'd be happy to speak with you. But with that, I'd entertain any questions you have.
Thank you, Nate. It looks like we have a question from Kelly.
Yeah, I'm just curious functionally what the improvements are. Like we're scrolling through too fast to really see like how much square foot, what's the space going to be used for, just generally an overview from an operational standpoint of what the changes are.
Absolutely. So functionally, we're greatly expanding the program space itself. So the area where our participants and athletes, get ready in the morning, as well as it streamlines their ability to get in with their volunteer instructor. It also, I don't know if you realize, but right now we have a staff of 6 that shares 2 tiny offices, one of which is actually an Arctic entryway and not really an office at all. So we're actually going to have dedicated staff working area, which is going to be a complete game changer for our team. We are expanding and upgrading all of our toileting facilities to include amenities like adult changing tables, as well as moving towards unisex toileting rooms rather than gender separated toileting rooms. And then our dormitory facility that we rely on very heavily so that we can cross-pollinate our instructor base, as well as give Alaskans with disabilities coming down to Girdwood from all over the state a place to sleep while they're there. We're going to expand on that, as well as put in some separations so that we can have either gender group separation, as well as family unit separation. We're basically making the facility much more flexible. We're also better tooling the facility for year-round use so that we can have a dedicated area for doing things like bike maintenance and some of the more involved adaptive equipment project work that we need to do, rather than just a completely wide open shop like we have now. So functionally, we've learned a lot over the last 30 years that we've lived in this facility. And, I can honestly say that now we know what works really well for us in the building, and we know the things that really could use some improvements. And I'm just so proud of the effort that the design team has put in to make sure that all of those pain points have been addressed so that, we can work more seamlessly in the new facility, as well as, like I said, functionally, we can turn over kind of the core of the building to those special events and building rentals to give you a much more flexible space for our community events in general. I hope that answered your question.
That's great. Thank you. Kelly, did you have any follow-up on that? Because I think we also have like to note that Amanda has entered the room, and Amanda Tell also have a question for you.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize on my delay on getting here. One thing I've been really curious about, just because I've attended many challenge events, and the outdoor space is just as critical to your outdoor space. You guys have hosted some amazing bonfires and all that for the community over the years. What does that mean for your outdoor footprint when you expand your indoor footprint? So how do you expect that kind of to happen? And do you think that'll affect your parking lot space, increase it? Just kind of what's your thought on the perimeter of this expansion? Thank you.
Oh, that's a great question. So we are hoping to squeak out a couple of additional parking spots in the parking lot. And then as far as the flexibility, the outer space, we're still going to have a lovely deck out on that slope side, as well as an area for, things like those fireside chats that everybody loves. But you're right. The building is going to take up more of our lot, and weighing the pros and cons of both, we need the interior space, and we can still accommodate the outdoor activities that we all love to do so much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions from the board or online? If not, thank you so much, Nate. I appreciated getting this information a second time around. I know it's a ton of work, but it's a beautiful building, and I learn new things each time. So thank you.
Well, thank all of you for the opportunity to come in and speak with you this evening. Like I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. But I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
So moving along, I believe we're up to reports. And since we have Representative Kai Holland in the room, I'd like to open things up for you.
Good evening. I'm Kai Holland. I'm representing House District 9 in the legislature. It's been an honor to be able to represent this area in House District 9 that runs from Huffman Road in South Anchorage through Girdwood and all the way out to Whittier. Area. We are, of course, done with the regular session that ended a few weeks ago, and we're in the middle right now of a special session that was called by the governor for purposes of specifically looking at legislation related to a natural gas pipeline, bringing gas from North Slope. You've probably seen quite a bit in the news about that. I'll just summarize is to say that the House on Friday passed out a piece of legislation, House Bill 318. That was actually the legislation we started working on earlier in the regular session. It provides a fairly significant tax break for the property taxes on a natural gas pipeline project. I do want to emphasize, though, because I've gotten a lot of questions, that the tax reduction that's being offered for the project is only addressing the property taxes on the conditioning plant on the North Slope, the pipeline, and eventually the LNG liquefaction plant. This does not change any of the taxes on the royalty for the gas, any of the taxes for the producers that are producing the gas. There's still a substantial revenue that is unchanged for bringing the gas to market and the benefits we get from it. This is dealing specifically with a property tax reduction, and it is quite significant. And I have gotten a lot of encouragement on both sides of this issue. There's a lot of folks that are very concerned about the amount, the substantial amount of property tax reduction being offered. But I've also gotten a tremendous amount of feedback about how important people feel that it is that we do what is felt to be important to help advance this project, both for the benefit of the jobs, but for many people in South Central in our area, the ability to potentially bring a new source of natural gas into our communities that are essential for both heating and power generation. We do have a gas shortage that's currently in front of us in terms of a lack of future contracts. So it's been a very challenging project. It's been a very challenging piece of legislation for us. At this point, though, today the legislation was taken up in the Senate. That's the bill that was passed out of the House. The Senate Finance Committee will be hearing it today, tomorrow, and I expect probably wrapping up their work on Wednesday. It'll go to the Senate floor on Thursday, and I'm headed down Thursday, as well as everybody else who's not already down there, and we'll be in the House expecting to get something from the Senate to consider on Friday. And it's important because Friday is the end of the 30-day special session. So one way or another, we have to take some action on Friday. And our action will be to consider whatever changes the Senate has made. And we will be voting on Friday whether to concur or not with their changes. And I can expect that there'll be a lot of pressure on us on both sides of this issue. If people have concerns or questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would welcome any feedback we have. If we concur with whatever changes they made, I expect that we're probably done at that point. We can move on with our rest of our plans for the summer and the fall. If we don't concur, I think it's reasonable to expect that we could be called into another special session to continue our work. Whether we'll get a different result is something that I've spent a lot of time with the tarot cards trying to define all the different permeations of how this works. So to wrap up then, a couple things on the bills. We did transmit some bills at the just after the session was over. Those ones went to the governor. He has until this Thursday evening to take action on those bills. So Friday, we're not only going to have potentially the bill coming back from the Senate, but we may see the first of whatever action the governor has taken on some of the bills. So you could see us on Friday potentially having some bills to look at if there were any that were vetoed on there. However, the important bills from the veto perspective that, we might see in terms of the budget, those bills have just gone to the governor. So those ones will still be a couple of weeks before the governor will have to take action. So now, shuffle your tarot cards again to figure out what might happen depending upon what the governor does with those additional bills that are going now that have about a 2, almost 3-week clock for the governor to take action. And then the last point on those bills, closely related to your interest, the budget does include some money that was being pulled from the passenger vehicle taxes, the passenger, I said it right. This is cruise ship money that has been pulled out and made available for Whittier to help supplement their EMS equipment. And that's important. They've been asking for a couple of years for help. They are expecting to double the number of cruise ship passengers coming through this year. And as we've seen over and over and over again, Whittier has become a very essential emergency response provider to upper turning and arm accidents and needs, from turning and pass down to, of course, Girdwood. So we're excited to see potentially some funding in that budget to help Whittier out. And then we also have a piece of legislation, House Bill 216, that I sponsored, that would complete one of the steps for Whittier and the railroad to do a land transfer. And that will allow Whittier for the first time to be able to actually own a substantial land in their community. And I bring this up to your attention only because it relates to an issue that is also happening in Girdwood that I've been learning about, which is the challenges you have in Girdwood over the decisions being made on the land in this area and some impacts of other agencies, including the state, and how they develop their land and how that affects you. And so being able to bring this legislation through in Whittier is really valuable to see how we can take a step towards understanding both where we could bring control, in this case, ownership, back to the local community so that the local community will have more ability to control how that is developed in the future. So that's that bill, along with the budget, are just going to the governor. We'll watch the next couple of weeks to see how those go. So happy to take any questions if you have any immediately, but I appreciate the time here. Because of some of the legislative campaign rules, I have to essentially, at 60 days out from the primary, which will also be this Friday, kind of stand down on a lot of the communications. They don't let us as a legislator spend a lot of what might be perceived as state resources for providing outreach that somebody might say, well, you're kind of using that to help your campaign. So you may see my newsletters and other communications quieting down, but I've not gone anywhere. I'm still available, I'm still on the job until January. Anyway, this thing goes, so don't hesitate to reach out. But if things get a little quieter, it's because that's the rules that I work by. Thank you for a few minutes of your time. Questions if you have any.
Yes, do we have questions from the board? Do you have a question? Okay, that's Amanda.
First of all, Kai, thank you for always showing up in person. I have always really appreciated that about you. I actually had 3 questions. Let's see if I can remember them because you provided such awesome information. First of all, can you, I'm a little lost on, just because there's been so much new development, what would be that potential new natural gas pipeline that they're talking about pushing through? I know there's been several routes. I've even worked on several personally myself. What route are they actually talking about right now?
Thank you. So first off, I have to just say I love driving down here, and I got to see the most incredible pour tide today. It was like I got there when had a number of surfers on there. It was very cool. There's always a good reason to come down here. The route is currently in the project that was permitted about 10 years ago in AGDC, the Alaska Gas Line Development Corporation. Follows the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline from the North Slope down to someplace north of Fairbanks. I don't have a good waypoint, but think a little ways above there, 50 or 100 miles. But at that point, it goes to the west, whereas the regular pipeline kind of goes off towards the east and goes down to North Pole. then goes down there. So it comes down over to the northwest corner of the Fairbanks borough area. So it has, I think, like 3 miles of the borough area. So it just kind of touches it, but it's well west of Fairbanks. And it comes down then along to the south near Nenana. And then it comes down, basically it's going to follow the highway then as it comes south out of the Nenana highway right of way. And it follows the highway down until you get to roughly around Trapper Creek, which I think was what, 115 or so. And at some point in there, it begins to move off to the west side of the highway and goes across the Matanuska-Susitna Valley to the west of the Susitna River. So the Parks Highway is over on the east side of the river at that point. This goes down the west and actually goes within a stone's throw of my cabin on Trapper Lake. So we're kind of watching this thing. But it comes down across the Matanuska Valley to the west of the Susitna River. And then when you get down to around Deshko Landing in that area, just around Willow, it then kind of heads over to where the Beluga.
So is that the actual, like, where do they expect the port to be with this potential new line? I guess that's also a big question.
So the port export facilities will actually be over in Nikiski. So after the pipeline gets to Beluga, where it ties in to the current gas line. So they talk about phase 1 versus phase 2. Phase 1 of the project, all it does, it's a big project. It builds the pipeline down from the north slope to basically the Beluga, north side of Cook Inlet. That's the end of phase 1. That gives us gas. At that point, if and when there's phase 2, they build the pipeline across Cook Inlet, come over to Kiski, and then near, but just slightly to the north of the existing Marathon Agrium, whatever you want to call it, facility, they built a new port right beside the old one that's in there.
So then so currently, if I understand correctly, it would be that we're kind of utilizing the Beluga resources, which is a very productive zone currently, right? So tapping into those resources.
Well, in particular, the gas pipeline is essentially connecting to the Beluga gas pipeline.
Correct. Okay.
So there's a 20-inch pipeline there. And so that's where they're plugging in. At that point, the large 42-inch pipeline from North Slope puts gas into that 20-inch line. And then that feeds around to the rest of the Cook Inlet communities for the time being to make up for the slowly declining amount of gas in the fields.
Understood. Thank you for that, because I was genuinely curious.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not sure which route they're actually proposing at this point, so thank you for that clarification.
Yes, if you're interested, if you go to my website at rep.conklin.com, you go under issues, there's an LNG page, and there's an ArcGIS link. So you can drill down to very fine detail if you're curious about this route.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Looks like we also have a question from Kelly Okonek online.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, you said the property taxes were substantially reduced for the communities affected. I know in a lot of communities, like that is how they offset the impacts of infrastructure being in their town. So can you comment on what we're expecting those communities to do? Or just generally how you reconcile personally that reduction?
Great, thanks for the question on that. So there is an assumption that the reduced property taxes, which will actually be changed from being a property tax to now a tax on the volume of gas moving through the pipeline. And in round numbers, it's about an 85–90% reduction in property taxes. So it's substantial in terms of the revenue, but it's not zero. And there is some revenue. It's a challenge, and the boroughs and municipalities have been very concerned about the question you're asking about how will we be able to pay for the impact of the communities. I think what's important, though, is that the primary impact of this project on its communities is largely front-end loaded. It's when we have a large number of people. I've seen lots of numbers, but let's just call it 10,000 for round numbers. We've got a bunch of people that will be in here for a few years. And while they're here, we're going to need more medical services. They may have families, some will, with that have kids that go to school. You're going to have wear and tear on the roads. Going to be a lot of front-end related expenses, which actually happen long before the pipeline would make any money and be taxed at all. And the issue is the property taxes, whatever amount they're at, or in this case, a volumetric replacement, that money shows up really late after the project's all gone. Most of those 10,000 people are all gone because the pipeline only needs a few hundred people to run the pipeline and maybe 1,000 people across the state to run the rest of it. So there's always been a timing problem. So fundamentally to your question, the real issue is not as much the property tax loss and revenue for the community impact, it's how do you deal with the property impacts during the early phase of building the project before it would have ever provided any money to anybody. And so that's the community impact money. And the current bill that has been passed out of the House to the Senate has the developer providing $40 million of money distributed through the communities at the start of the project to help them deal with costs of the project, with a increase that can be made up to $80 million in order to deal with expanded costs that communities see in the process. So most of the community impact is meant to be accounted for with this community impact money that's actually paid directly from the project developer long before the project would have ever generated any revenue. So how do I reconcile all this? With some great difficulty. There was another proposal that we looked at, and I believe Senator Giesel was involved with this, that proposed $1 million per mile of pipeline construction, which was proposing roughly 700, almost $800 million of money for these early project impacts. So you can see this big gap between currently our bill says 40 to 80, and there had been another proposal that said 800. How much impact are we really going to see? I think we've all struggled with making sure that our communities are not harmed by the project and have access to funds to address any problems. And that's, I think, what I hope the Senate will continue to work on, trying to make sure we're accounting for that. But I'm not completely comfortable we've got the right numbers in the House version. The Senate will be looking at this more.
Super thorough report. Thank you. Kelly, did you have a
thank you.
follow-up to? Yeah, good. Okay. And then did you have a question? Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, I had a question on the cruise ship and EMS money in Whittier. I have heard that the Girdwood EMS also deals with we have to do with a lot of tourists having medical issues. And I am curious if there was some funding source that scaled directly with the amount of impact that we have, doing sort of a one-off, taking some money for Whittier specifically. Has there been, I'm curious if it would make more sense, or have you thought about it of some way so that, the departments that actually deal with the most out-of-state people get that is how that fund is apportioned up?
Thanks for the question. I think it's an important observation that not necessarily all the costs go with exactly the cruise ships are. However, the passenger vehicle taxes that are being used here were subject to a court case a few years ago that were kind of challenging how far could you expand the circle of the use of those funds. So these funds are actually coming from the passengers on the ships. And it turns out it's an interesting little nuance of our Constitution. So we're going back to it 50 years ago, that essentially says under the admiralty laws that the money you collect from a ship at port has to be used to benefit the ship at the port. And you may have seen a case a few years ago that had to do with a whale and walkway statue down in Juneau that was where this was challenged. So long-winded way of saying, yes, we have been looking at Anchorage and expanded challenges. In this case, though, the ability to have carved out any money here was because these are EMS vehicles that are actually going to the ship. And they're dealing with people that are getting on and off the ship, so they pass the federal tests of the use of the money for the ship and for the dock. The fact that then Whittier has this expanded capability to provide greater services is the secondary benefit. The primary test was the ship.
Thanks.
Did you have a follow-up on that? I'm very glad to see Chief Weston online, and so I imagine she has a little feedback for this as well. Chief Weston?
Hi there. And I'm next door. I'll come over for the other report. I just want to thank Representative Holland for that and supporting Whittier. That does actually indirectly help us when Whittier is exhausted with ambulances and when their contracted ambulance service for the cruise ships and Seward are taking passengers off the cruise ships, which happens in the dark of night, so no one sees when the cruise ships arrive in the morning. We do get impacted because we're the next closest. So this money for them does actually help us. So we appreciate that and his hard work for that. Yes, definitely. I appreciate the comment about looking for the tourist impacts for us. We are as we all know, we are very heavily impacted by tourists, and tourists also, just like regular people, generate EMS calls. And so any opportunity we could have to see how we could have staff up for that second ambulance during tourist season would be huge. I did apply for that rural health grant for this exact purpose, to put on the second ambulance in summer, but it wasn't funded. So I am still looking for opportunities out there to fund the second ambulance. I have people I could put on it right now, but I need to find the funding to staff it. So thank you again for working on this problem in the global sense. Thank you.
Well, we ran you through your paces for a lot of information right off the top of your head. Thank you. Very informative report. Really appreciate it. Absolutely. All right. I don't think that we have Senator Giesel online. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
Okay. And I did, however, see Assemblymember Johnson online.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everybody. I'll run through a few quick updates, and then, of course, always happy to answer questions. At our last assembly meeting, a couple of highlights. One, we passed an ordinance that affects the transfer of some Heritage Land Bank inventory in South Anchorage to a nonprofit for a natural burial cemetery. Those of you who've probably been following this conversation know we are all but out of space for burying remains in Anchorage unless you have the resources to go to one of the private cemeteries. So that has been a challenge, but this will be a new opportunity for people once that facility comes online. Looks very thoughtful. Of course, we tried a couple years ago to get some funding to stand up the cemetery in Girdwood, and we were not successful at that time, although I'm hopeful we'll figure out a path forward in the future. We also took public testimony again for a second night on the Public Safety Advisory Commission. The commission that we had in place for quite a few years sunsetted. I think it was 2 years ago. There were some, without getting too in the weeds, some problems with the way it was structured. And so the thought was to come up with a new model, but it's generated a lot of public interest. The ordinance that we had up for consideration last Tuesday was, I think, the S version. There were 9 amendments put on the table, and we haven't, I guess, long story short, we haven't really got into the debate on that yet, and we're going to continue the public hearing at the second meeting in July. So there'll be another opportunity for people to speak on that, and I expect we'll have a work session sometime between now and then. I'll also note that short-term rental registration, which has had a nice long runway, but those registrations are due by July 30th. Certainly, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to help point people in the right direction to get that accomplished. Also note for the assembly meeting coming up next Tuesday, 2 items. One, the administration is bringing forward a proposal for tax incentives for first-time home buyers. This is something that is now permissible due to a bill that the state legislature passed this year to give us some more flexibility in that space and others. So I haven't had a lot of time to take a look at what the mayor's proposal looks like, but that will be up for introduction at our next meeting, and then presumably with the public hearing the following meeting. We're also going to, I believe it's still continuing the public hearing on it, but we have the proposal for a veteran-owned business preference program for bidding for certain types of municipal contracts. It's gone through a few iterations. I think we have an S1 version now that we're going to be looking at. I'm not one of the sponsors on that, but there's been continuing conversation between the administration and the assembly sponsors to try and make sure the program feels workable for everybody. And finally, I'll note that we also recently had our quarterly joint meeting with the school board. I think a lot of the challenges the school district is struggling with are pretty well known to the community. Two things to highlight in terms of the assistance we're getting from the state, which we appreciate, whatever we can get. One is $5.5 million for energy relief for the Anchorage School District for next year. And then also there would be an additional $32 million in one-time funding. However, that's contingent upon meeting certain targets for oil revenues. And the challenge for that with the school district is we won't know whether or not we've crossed that line to trigger the additional funding until late August. And then I don't believe the funds actually become available to us until October, which is to say it will be additional funding, but we won't get it until we are almost halfway through the school year, which makes it really hard for the district to figure out how to plan around that for budgeting purposes. But of course, still hopeful that we get it. So I think those are all the things I have notes on. But yeah, here for questions if you have them.
All right, do we have any, thank you for that. Do we have any questions from the board or online? All right, thank you very much. And thank you for showing up. It's great to get the information from you directly. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, happy to.
I don't think we have Keith McCormick online. So moving on would be the Anchorage School Board liaison. And I didn't see Rachel Blakesley online either. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know if we have a representative from ASB. Otherwise, I also don't think that we have Tim Charn in here or any other representative from HLBAC.
Nope.
Okay.
I can tell you that they canceled their meeting for July. And so HLB's next meeting is not going to be till August.
Oh, I thought I just saw a notice for their.
I thought I saw for June.
They are doing it. They are
Yeah.
doing a June meeting for parliamentary procedures.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
No worries. I was just reviewing that today. All right, supervisor reports. Let me start. I'll start down with you if you have anything to report.
So hello. So obviously we just had our first PSAC meeting this past week. It was very new. I think the biggest thing to announce is that we voted to start holding a meeting every other month rather than just quarterly. In our first attempt to really actually stand up PSAC. As I mentioned before, it was really important to me when I joined GBOS that PSAC was stood up for multiple reasons, including seeing issues that had been pushed through this board that I just think could have been handled better had, we had a stood up PSAC. And so as a board, I think we're really excited, and it was encouraged that we start trying to do some outreach and encourage the public that if you have any public safety issues, to please reach out to us. Again, we're standing up, so we're kind of rudimentary, but we look forward to being a successful and productive community of Girdwood.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Brian?
Let's see, for Parks and Rec, I want to remind everyone that the planning and zoning meeting for the Parks Master Plan is on July 6th. I think the information is included in our handout this evening, if anybody's curious on that and how to get responses in on that. We've been holding Trail Tuesdays, and we've had 2 now so far this year, and we'll have another Trail Tuesday in July. And we're going to be hosting a lunch for our youth employment in parks on Thursday, is it? I think Wednesday. Boy, it's coming up quick. We're putting the menu together as we speak. And they're out, youth employment in park is hauling gravel for us out there on the Middle Iditarod Trail. And that's it from Parks and Rec.
Thank you. I know I wanted to go to that picnic, but I'm hosting one for the ski jumpers the same day at the same time, so it doesn't work. Nick, would you have any updates? It's fine if you don't.
Yeah, I don't think too many. Went down to the fire station and just been catching up and learning about and meeting people in the community, and yeah, not a lot.
Thank you. And Kelly, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think the major topic of conversation at GHEC was around the zoning for portable dwellings, but that's on our agenda, so I won't belabor the topic here.
Okay, thank you. And for land use, I just want to say that we had sent back some of the zoning changes to land use to discuss, and it was discussed, but I do want to note, and I know this has come up in some of our conversations before, that there are only 8 or 9 people at the meeting, but out of those, only 4 or 5 voted. And so we had votes that went 2-2 and amendments not passed because 2 people were opposed to them. It's kind of really hard to get a feeling for the community when 4 people are voting. So anyway, my personal plea is that if you've got things you care about, please show up to the meetings. All right, moving right along. Do we have any committee updates for items not on the agenda, but of interest to the community online? If not, I'll move on to standing reports, and we can talk about as a board whether or not we want this to continue. But I will say I do actually have an update on Holton Hills. I spoke a little bit with Connie. She mentioned she has 166 letters of interest, 30 from Girdwood, less than 100 from Anchorage, hoping to get their permit to build in the fall, and hoping to allow first rights of refusal in, at the end of August or early September, and did warn us, or did mention to me that there could be a certain amount, there's going to be clearing in order to really make room for the building that happens. There's going to be a lot of clearing. So as a community, we need to be ready for that. Deborah, did you have anything to add to committee updates or building development updates?
Hi, Jennifer. I had, I don't know if this is appropriate time. I did want to say something about the community. You said something about committee reports, and I wanted to add something from, I think, really the PSAC, but and for the community at large, that about the airport, the new, is this appropriate? I'm just going to, it's real quick. I just wanted to say that DOT put out a really cool barrier at the on the airport at the end, like just past the new hangars, and that is a deterrent for anybody to drive. You can't go drive over it. I don't think even an airplane wheels can get over it. It's not huge, but it's not drivable. So that was really great to see, because that will, in my opinion, really take out the traffic going down to the past the hangars to the river for the fires and the partying. So I was really impressed to see that. However, I feel that it's really only going to work if that gate at the new hangars is closed. So I know people are going in and out to their, the renters are going in and out of their hangars, but leaving it open is just, I don't think is a good idea. Especially with Forest Fair weekend coming up now, we're going to get really impacted there. So I'm looking for ideas on how to inform the hangar renters to keep that gate closed. Well, I guess locked, actually.
Okay, I think we've kind of boarded into some public comment, but I think we might have an answer for you or a comment related to that from Kelly.
Yeah, I would just say I'm the secretary treasurer for those hangars, and we genuinely make a concerted effort as a community to keep that gate locked. I'll send a note out to everybody reminding them, especially for Forest Fair. But I would say that I've seen it closed more often lately than it has in the past, and that's intentional.
Oh, that's great. Good to hear that, Kelly. Thank you for sending that note out just as a reminder for the Forest Fair weekend. And then thanks. Thank you.
All right, Deborah, thanks for your comments, and I'm glad we could get some of that addressed right away. That's nice. So moving on to service provider reports, we could hear from Chief Weston.
Updates for us, brush chipping was a success on Saturday, June 6th. So that was from Chugach Electric came down and did free brush chipping for us for fire reduction. So that was really wonderful. We had 6 firefighters pass their practical skills for firefighter 1 last weekend. So we're super happy about that. They're just waiting for their written exams. So to find out their results from the state. So that's 6 new interior firefighters that's coming online. 80% of our firefighters are now red card certified. That was a huge lift for us. We went from 5% to 40 something last year to 80%. And yeah, so it's a huge lift. And then we also have the remaining 20% are going to get all their online work done. So we'll just have to do the field day next year. So huge thing to get it done. It's like 32 hours of online training plus an 8-hour so and an arduous bit. So super happy about that. We are now offering fire-wide foam assessments if anyone's interested. With AFD Wildfire Division, their wire project was down doing drive-by assessments of everybody's house. We're doing forest fair emergency planning. I'm trying to get the hydrants painted because we have a problem with people parking in front of them during special events. So I'm hoping if they're, and people always say to me, I didn't see the hydrant. I didn't know it was a hydrant. Well, it looks like a hydrant everywhere else. So I'm thinking if it's painted as an art piece of artwork, maybe people will not park in front of it as much. So I'm hoping that's going to happen. And we have, I would say, 5 people interested, 3 artists already by AWW, and they're giving and we will provide the paint to make it happen. And you know, when you look at the hydrants, some of them look rough after winter, so it's going to spruce up the community. Yeah, super excited to see those come on winter. The dry hydrant on Sprout Road is out of service at the moment due to a mechanical issue. We're fixing it. We're working on it right now. Actually, tonight the guys are working on it. We have a fire extinguisher charging day on July 2nd, where the Forest Fair fire extinguishers are being charged. So people can also bring down their extinguishers and get them charged. You'll have to pay a fee, but at least it's done and you don't have to drive to Anchorage. We're going to submit a federal grant. It's federal grant writing season for a new fire training prop at the industrial park. Because we're super excited that the municipal tract is now done. Submitted 6 rural health grant submittals. None of them were successful. They were all deferred. And we've got new ambulance gurneys. And tomorrow, 2 to 4, we're doing a wildfire tabletop. We've invited for evacuation. We've invited a lot of interagency partners. I'm not sure how many are going to show up. It'll be in this room. For supervisors, you guys you're welcome to come. Assuming it meets all the meeting act to come and participate and watch. I'm hoping to get more interagencies partners to come because we have some different challenges compared to Anchorage, and I think it would be worth everyone coming. And I'm super. The Anchorage Emergency Operations Center is super supportive. They helped us out, and they're coming down. So happy about that. Okay. Well, we've been busy. 31 incidents so far. 19 EMS calls, 1 vehicle electrification, commercial. We had that car run full speed into the project office at LES Resort. That was interesting, not the normal place we go to car accidents. We had a commercial vehicle fire. That was the tractor trailer on fire. We had another vehicle fire. That was the motorcycle versus vehicle with 3 fatalities. We had a couple of hazardous chemical floors. That's the gas leak calls have gone. 5 good intent, 2 relevant assists. And I think there was one more slide that just said ready, set, go, but maybe not. Oh, yeah, look at that. Ready, set, go. So ready, set, go, evacuation guidelines, we are in high fire danger, so we could have a wildfire and need to evacuate. Reminder, if you're on set, that means you need to get ready or leave now. And then go means leave immediately. And please sign up for Smart 911, text Anchorage to that number, and you can sign up for emergency alerts. As the wildfire mitigation program gets their home sprinkler systems to come online, you'll be, people that have a Firewise assessment, have signed up for Smart 911, will be able to get a home sprinkler kit for their house. So thank you.
I have
Thank you
a
so much.
question.
Oh, okay.
Chief Weston?
For you, Chief Weston.
Oh, I'm back.
Just one quick question. I know it's a lot of work, especially when you're trying to bring attention to fire hydrants. How do we know which ones are claimed and which fire hydrants are not claimed? So if there is one in our neighborhood,
I have the list,
okay,
and each hydrant has a number.
okay,
It's got a number on it, but we also have a number with it. There's 60 hydrants. I would say maybe 5 are claimed at the moment. So it's very possible that if yours is not, but you know, if not, we can find you another one. And I am every weekend posting 2 hydrants for adoption. So just to raise awareness. So thanks.
that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to put in a pitch for the Firewise program. We had that, and it's a real eye opener about how to maintain defensible space around your house and how you might have more fire hazards than you think. So anyway, it's a great program. So I'll put that out there. I see that we have, moving right along for the police report, we have Chief Shea online.
Good evening. For the for last month of May, we had approximately 148 calls for service in Girdwood area. Majority of our calls were security checks in Girdwood area. We also concentrated a little bit on traffic. This month's concentration after the Public Safety Advisory Committee meeting was it's going to be a little bit more on traffic. There's some reports of some vehicles blocking roads that possibly would not allow emergency responders to access that neighborhood. So officers have been advised of that. So we'll be concentrating on speed enforcement and parking in the Girdwood area as well. Other than that, we have one officer at the Police Academy in Fairbanks, and we are still interviewing and testing for one vacant officer's position. Currently, we have several officers that received some advanced certifications in law enforcement. Lloyd Willis received his advanced police certification. Tim Sampson and Jerry Harrod both received their intermediate police certifications. And Colin's niece, who was a former police officer, just recently got his police certification reinstated since he came back to work in the state of Alaska. For Forest Fair, we're gearing up. We're going to have approximately 3 to 4 officers working that weekend in Girdwood on staggering shifts, as well as officers in Whittier. So all hands will be on deck. All employees will be working that weekend. We also anticipate some training coming up in the next month. We've instituted some new equipment for patrol staff, including in-car videos, mobile data terminals, and new softwares to go with that. We're hopeful we're going to try to get it installed by the Forest Fair 4th of July weekend. Otherwise, it'll be installed by the end of the second week of July. We'll also be doing our annual training. We're moved it up to sometimes to the fall for our in-service training for use of force training, simulations training, and reactionary trainings. And that's going to be in July. Other than, if anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions from the board or online? I do have a quick question. I just have to know, what's a wildlife violation?
That could be a game violation, someone harassing game. It could be of various different topics. Like that could also be someone fishing where they're not supposed to be fishing, harassing spawning salmon, things of that nature.
All right, that's not as interesting as I was hoping it would be. I was really hoping you could periodically cite wildlife. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, roads.
Good evening, Kyle Kelly. I'll start with parks, and we are our crews are out working. We've got Luke and John out there. They're back for their 4th year with us and doing great work and working all over town. So you'll see them out and about throughout the summer. We did have campground hosts, but they actually found a new permanent living housing situation. So we have an opening for park host again, campground host to help us out there. So if anybody has any interest, feel free to reach out to Margaret or I, and we can inform you about the opportunity there. It's a volunteer position. We just ask you to help us kind of keep an eye on the park and help us with some of the housekeeping items around the pavilions. Bears, we definitely have a local bear population back, and we're asking people to be really vigilant about keeping their trash secure, especially on Trash Tuesdays. Waiting, don't put any cans out where your lids are unsecured or open, and then try to maybe wait till you can get it out later in the morning or right before the trash comes. And we do remind people that if you keep your trash unsecured, Girdwood did a big push to have ordinance that fines can be assessed that way through land use enforcement. So we're just a reminder there. We're just trying to keep the bears safe from us. Spring has definitely shown up and we've had a lot going on. We want to thank all our volunteers who came out and planted all the flowers for us this year and all the planters throughout town. We get our flowers from the municipality's greenhouse. And then, we had to wait an additional week because of the cold, but they got out there and got it done. And we're enjoying the weather we're getting now and taking care of it out there. Trails, we've been very busy with trail projects. As Ryan mentioned, we had a Trail Tuesday last week and a great turnout, and then made great improvements on the trail from Lower Davos over to Alyeska, a bike path to the Glacier Creek Bridge there. And so they came out and helped us move a lot of gravel and set grade. So we appreciate all that. Today, we've been working with a youth and parks group up on the middle of Iditarod. We got 30 youths up there, and they're hauling in gravel in 5-gallon buckets, as heavy as they can carry, and laying it out for us. And we also have Alaska Trails has a 5-person crew here right now. They're with us for 8 days. They'll be on 2 hitches throughout the summer with us. And they built 100 linear feet of turnpike over the weekend, and we filled that with gravel today. And we'll continue to be doing that with the youth and parks. And you might see the Alaska Trails group over on the middle of Iditarod. They're working from basically the new Holton Hills Road. We just put the new trailhead in over there, and then they're making improvements on that path or that trail going up to Crow Creek Road. That was the segment we didn't get to last year. We definitely worked the other section. So they're doing that for us. They'll be with it here until about the end of June, and then they'll return for another hitch in August. So they'll be out there. And we do appreciate everybody who came out for that volunteer event and helped us there as it went. We have lots of large and small projects we're working throughout all the different portions of the parks, and we'll be out there continuously through the summer working on those. So if you see anything out there that's broken or anything, let us know. We'll have a focus on the playground this year when we get some chance to do some painting in there. We did putting out a whole new about 40 yards of new wood chips in there and refresh that in that area. So it's hard to believe that playground's almost 25 years old already. So we're just keeping with the upkeep on it as it goes. The report goes into much more detail about grants and everything like that, but Margaret does a great job of keeping our websites and all our information up to date. So you can find information there, and links to all kinds of things in here on reports and things like that is within our reports. So you can find all that information there. I'm going to switch over the roads. It's been a very busy spring, early summer for road maintenance projects. And the list goes through more detail there about it, but we did complete the full springs grade and compaction and applied 400 tons of calcium chloride out there to the roads, and it came out really well this year. We waited a bit longer with the cold temperatures, and the roads worked with us as we went through it. And we had some nice rain spells in there that helped us as well. And then we jumped right into drainage work and went through a bunch of drainage work. And a lot of the drainage work had to do with where we had a lot of the freezing problems this year. And so we hope we can make some improvements there so that reduces those icing situations that we dealt with this winter. Hopefully we don't see the icing situation again, but the drainages will be better. And then we had to deal with a lot of repairs in that aspect. So we got through a huge chunk. We're gonna probably take a break for a bit because we got all that calcium out and all those roads shaped and not tear too much up, but we'll probably be back at it after Forest Fair, probably later July, early August. The other thing that we're dealing with is that we're rebidding the contract. So we don't know who the new contractor is going to be. I know our current contractor, Western, is interested in rebidding, but we have to go through the procurement process with the municipality. So we'll be going over that here over the next 60 days. But our current contract ends on August 1st. So we'll see what that brings. And talking about major projects, the Ruan fish culvert, that invitation for proposals are out right now for design, the RFP, request for proposals, and we should close on that, I think, this week. And so we'll get proposals submitted to us, and then we'll select a firm to do the design work, which will start this summer, and then over the winter with us to be on pace to construct a new culvert there next summer. EPA is coming up next month. We're going to give them a tour of the area. They're looking at all the community grants that were funded. So we'll get them up to speed, at least on site, so they understand what's going on there and work through that. The Winter Creek Bridge, tomorrow we have a pre-construction meeting with Spurnack & Sons, the constructor, and that will establish the schedule. And we'll talk about the procurement issues that we're dealing with. Since this bid was opened, well, a war started, the oil prices went up, tariffs increased, and most of our steel is probably coming from Europe because the cables that are used for it are the same that you find on resorts for skiing. So we're going to have to go through those challenges, but there's just another hurdle in this project. You know, this project's been going for 8 years, and we're closer than ever. We just have to get over these hurdles. So we're going to work through those as best we can. But most likely we will start this project later summer with foundation work, get things prepped for the steel package, and then build the bridge next summer at this point. But tomorrow will give us more information as to where that's at. So lots going on there. And like I said here, the Girdwood Road maintenance contract, we're at the end of the 5 years. And so it's time to rebid it. We were supposed to do this back in March, but purchasing had some issues that they weren't pleased with the old contracts, which we had to use for 30 years. And they wanted some changes, so we delayed it till now. Eagle River just went ahead of us. We're both on the same pace. Eagle River, I call my big brother, we're the little brother, and they had to go through it. So we used a lot of what they figured out through purchasing to help us get through our requirements for purchasing. So we will be putting that out to bid. I've been pushing with administration leadership to hopefully do it this week, at least get it to purchasing and move it forward and then see where it goes. So the goal is to have it all wrapped up by August 1st and have whoever the new contractor or the returning contractor is in place. So that's where we stand on those things right now. It was kind of a busy weekend for us. We had a big windstorm that came through, and yesterday we had to deal with a couple trees that went down, unusual, but for the most part, everything else held up. So that was eventful, but we love this weather for the rest of the week. Right now, this is where we're at with finances. Western is behind. They should be giving me their invoicing for April and May here shortly. As it goes, once kind of the construction season goes, it kind of falls a little bit behind as the owner wants to review every detail about the invoice before he sends it. So we should be getting those, he said, middle of this week. But we stand pretty good right now where we're at. But we were pretty busy in April and May with sweeping, grading, and the work we did. So we'll see where those come in. Parks is right where they need to be. It's beginning of park season, so our expenses, we're getting a lot of bills coming in now. So that will start to pay or start to pick up in expenses as it goes forward. And then you can see here where we stand with police and fire. Everything is where it needs to be this time of year. You know, a lot of times the bills don't come in till later. So, but budget wise, we're looking good for the service area overall. So, and these were some meetings that we have we just keep track of within our report for the future here. Next week, we do have the first GBOS budget meeting for 2027. which we will do a review and talk about proposed budgets. It's just initial kickoff, and especially if you haven't been part of the budget process before, get you familiar with that. So, yeah, that's what's going on. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Right, do we have any questions from the board or online? Yes, Margaret.
Mine's not a question, but I had two other things that came up more recently than when we put together our report. One of them is that we're going to be looking for volunteers to help with a weed pull with our Alien Species Inc., which is a really fun name for weeds. So we'll be looking at doing that in July or August. So anybody who wants to help with that or even spearhead it is welcome to drop me an email or give me a call. Also, the Muni is going to be going through a major website migration. And if you could see my eye twitch, you would see it happen right now. This is gonna, they promise it's gonna be okay. But anyway, it's going to be a big deal for the Muni to move all of the content from their website onto another system. So I have concerns about posting meetings and then having, say, the links or the agendas or whatever not populating when people are looking for them. So anyway, we'll just all need to be patient and be aware that it's temporary, and we're all going to just do our best to get through it.
When did you say that was occurring?
I think they're planning on it taking like 10 weeks to do the whole thing. I don't know when they will get to our couple of pages.
Like within the next month? Are you thinking like?
Starting tomorrow.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right, that's it on these. Briefly on library, you have not missed your chance for the goats, and it's listed in the meeting packet. So it's coming up this Wednesday, though, and we've already ascertained that this is a packed Wednesday in Girdwood. But yeah, you've not missed your chance for the goats. And I also want to draw people's attention to the Housing Community Resource Fair, to the actually number of great projects on Wednesdays. And the teen driving practice on Saturday, July 11th is also a great program. It's a little bit lower than below the Cummings workshop. So anyway, just wanted to draw the attention to that. Also, I neglected to mention FCC report because it kind of had it separate from supervisor reports. I did just want to point out that despite numerous community votes and all kinds of discussions, and despite the last clarifying vote, making it very clear who has and hasn't been a delegate, the person who was never a delegate is now Girdwood's area representative on the board of directors for the FCC. So I just want to state my own personal frustration, feeling like the FCC has really put us through the ringer in asking for clarifying votes and then not paying any attention to them whatsoever. All right, moving on to public comment. Persons offering public comment must state their full name and address. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person and must be on subjects not listed on the agenda. And I know we have at least one person for public comment, so I'd like to invite Kai up, and then anyone else, please raise your hand and we'll get to you afterwards.
Great, thank you. Kai Holland, I live at 14020 Stover Lane, Anchorage, Alaska. So thank you. I'm up here just to mention briefly that I'm running for re-election. So I'm now putting on my candidate's hat. The election will be on August 18th for the primary. I'm running as an independent again. I've been honored to be able to represent this area. This was my first term. I was just elected in 2024 for the first time. So it's been a vertical learning curve, and I've enjoyed what I've been able to do. I was born and grew up in Anchorage. I've been around here a while. I remember when there was one chairlift at Alyeska, so I've been coming here a long time and looking forward to continuing to do that down the road. I won't belabor all of the issues. I think we've had a chance to cover a lot of that already in terms of things I'm working on in energy education and economic development. I will be out doing doors. I started a couple of weeks ago, so you're going to find me in the neighborhoods, knocking on doors, trying to wake up any sleeping dogs and have a chance to chat with people about priorities and concerns. I am hearing a lot already about property taxes and schools as an issue. While those may come up frequently as what might seem to be local Anchorage issues, I really view those as a manifestation of what's going on at the state level. The state funding for education has been flat for a number of years. That has caused a tremendous amount of stress in our school districts across the state. And we're seeing the problems that are resulting from that. And many of the challenges with property taxes and the impact on communities are coming about because the state no longer provides much in the way of revenue sharing. And a lot of the cuts that we've made at the state level in terms of healthcare and other social services and safety net have largely been cut, which has left Anchorage as a place where we have to provide the safety net, which means you and I as property taxpayers end up being the primary source of funding for that. So I continue to recognize that the challenges we see locally are actually part of what's happening at the state and the role that we should have at the state to recognize that we need to do more to support that. So looking forward to being a part of that. I think I will leave it at that for tonight, and maybe in July I'll be back. I might dive into a little more of the formal candidates information. If anyone's trying to find me online, I'm at Alaskans for tyholland.com, and my phone number will still be the same, 727-2735. Anyone wants to reach out to me, ask me questions or comments or 2x4s, I'm welcome to any feedback you have. So thank you again for the opportunity that I've had to be able to represent the area, and I hope to be able to continue to do that in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Deborah.
Hi, thank you. This is Deborah Krogan, Box 1165 in Girdwood. I'd like to talk and have a little discussion about some of these so-called like park pockets. And I like the idea of the little park pockets. There's one that's off the trail just past the bridge that Kyle was just talking about that just got graveled. That leads to the river, and it's got a great view. The flowers that are planted there are from donations and of our the neighborhood, and also the upkeep of it is by the neighborhood volunteers. However, the situation on Davos, just by the culverts that were put in last year, there was a significant cutout that was made. And I've talked about this before. I've brought it up here. And also I've spoken with Kyle a few times about it, as I know other neighbors in this block of Davos, Mountain Hood, and Lake Tahoe have also talked to him about it. Our concerns being that, well, I guess the biggest one is the overnight camping. But also, yeah, it's just super, in my opinion, I think it's obvious that that is not an appropriate place for overnight camping, due to trash and human waste. And these are problems that we've dealt with during the years of activity, mainly around Forest Fair, for example. That's a popular place to park. But this culvert this like big significant swath that was cut out there is just inviting people to overnight camp. It's happened already this spring a few times. I've seen at least 3 different times in the cold, vans parking overnight. I've seen people go right across the river and take care of their personal business there. So the reason why I would say like I'd like a little discussion about it is because just recently I spoke with Kyle about it, and we had some conversation and some ideas perhaps. And one of them was like he had suggested about posting a no overnight camping sign there. And I personally am not in favor of signage. So I think that one thing that could be, and I'm looking for some ideas also, but I think it's really imperative that we get on top of this now before Forest Fair weekend, because that is going to be an overnight grab all camping. And so one thing is that, well, I think that it should go back to natural and not have that culvert, that big swath. I think that's just inviting a problem. But if it's already there, and Kyle said something that they seeded it and there's going to be grass. One idea was that that I think would be really great is to put these big boulders on that So, that piece of park, whatever land right there you want to call it, it's not a park. It's, but to develop it as a park, I think is just not the appropriate place. There are no other places in Girdwood that we offer that, in any neighborhood. And so I think the big boulders being placed there would
Can
really,
I interrupt you 1 second? Sorry.
Yeah.
So like that was 3 minutes, but listen, I would really like to follow up with you about this. And we don't have it on the agenda right here for talking about, but also this strikes me as an issue that should start with land use. And so would you be willing for you and I to talk about this offline at another time, and then really get out like all your ideas and possibilities about this, and then figure out a way to move forward?
I think that's a great idea, Jennifer. And I do kind of apologize for just springing it on here, but my concern is that we do have Forest Fair weekend coming up, and it will be a grab ball. There will be overnight camping there. So I think it needs to be addressed, even temporary right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any ideas of how we can temporarily do that? Maybe Kyle, do you have some idea? Can you chime in on that?
We did discuss this, and I think you might remember this, but we did discuss this at the Public Safety Advisory meeting, and I did inform you that we were going to place rocks there on that grassy knoll area. I mean, in the short term, we could put signage up, which I know you don't want. So we can figure out ways, but I think we can have a larger discussion about this, and build off what we talked about at public safety.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Do you think that you could get a few rocks out there before the weekend of the Forest Fair, just to deter that traffic?
We're trying to make that happen. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Amanda here. And Deborah, I also planned on reaching out to you too. I know we talked about me meeting and us walking down that area as well. So I also have it in my plans to contact you as well.
That'd be great. I look forward to it, Amanda. Thank you.
All right, moving on to old business. We don't have any more public comment. Do we have anybody else here for public comment? Yes, if you're, yes, you have public comment too.
So I apologize. I don't know if this is the right way to do this, but I wanted to bring something to the community's attention that's arisen as a business owner and the effects on the community. So our public transportation system needs funding, and here's what I'm running into as a business owner. I would like to increase my hours in Old Girdwood. However, I am unable to because our public transportation, our Girdwood shuttle, does not have the staffing or the funding that is needed to actually go back up to 2 buses this summer. This is huge for my business. It's actually it's hard. It's a huge hardship that I have to make. I have to reduce my hours, most likely this coming week, because of the shuttle. My staff with the shuttle only operating 1 bus an hour and ending at 11:30, that means my operations must shut down at 9 o'clock at night. These are some of the hardships that are going on in this community that I want the community to be aware of. It's not an easy answer at this point, but I want people to understand some of the side effects of what our economy is right now. And we've already lost 2 businesses in the last month. And the fact that I, as a almost 25-year business, am going to be forced to close my doors even more due to lack of public transportation because I have no public housing and my only housing for my employees is 3 miles away from my business. This is devastating. We're going into the heart of the season for this entire year, and I'm going to be forced to close my doors. These are real things I'm dealing with. Our public transportation system needs to be funded. People need to understand what it means to keeping the local businesses open. Old Girdwood brings in the vast majority of Girdwood's economy. We are 5 local businesses in Old Girdwood. There's only about 4 of us local businesses left in this community standing. That's it. That's it, you guys, 4. So when I speak, it's hard not to get emotional. Our public transportation system needs funded. We shouldn't be closing businesses due to public transportation and public housing. But these are the things I'm literally facing today. I want this community to be aware of what's going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, let's, if we have no more public comment, let's move to old business. First time on old business is agenda item LUC 2026-04, FCC delegate from GBOS. This part of the agenda item is, I believe, a continuation of promise of, or the assurance that we would talk about whether or not to have an official delegate. And that has only been introduced as new business at LUC. So I'm not sure if we want to discuss this until LUC has decided one way or the other, because I think we all agreed that this goes to LUC first as a community discussion. But if there's anybody else, but if anyone has any other ideas about that on the board or has anything else they want to say about this, we can talk more about it. Yes, Kelly.
I was just going to say that in light of Mike electing himself to represent Girdwood, despite the vote of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, it's imperative that we formally remain as a GBOS showing up until that is resolved. Because having a self-appointed Girdwood representative, but no actual tie back to Girdwood, to me is a risk that is not worth having. So yes, it should go to LUC, but in the meantime, I think it's important that we have a presence as an official standing.
Okay, sorry, Amanda, would you like to speak as well?
Yeah, I have grave concerns over this. How is it that somebody can be representing us when we said we have no representation? This is an ethics complaint.
Can I speak, Jen?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I do think I don't know what else there's left to do as a board. And if it is an ethics, but I mean, I agree with Amanda, like this is beyond ridiculous and I can't even, but it feels also somewhat powerless.
Okay, what I would propose is, I think there's more information gathering to do on that aspect of this topic. And then the other aspect of this topic is whether not to have a formal delegate. And if we're all comfortable with leaving that until it has gone through LUC, then I'd like to move on. But if, again, if any member of the board disagrees with that, then we can certainly discuss more. No, are we, okay. In that case, I'm going to move on to item number 7, Girdwood Fire Department request for a GBOS resolution of support and approval for not to exceed $20,000 for annual replacement of fire hose turnouts and mattresses in the GBSA fire capital account. Hello there. Hi.
So annually we have hose. This is our normal annual capital request. We're testing hose right now. We're almost through the hose testing process. As of today, there was 4 3/4 that failed, 1 5-inch. We're still doing more 5-inch testing, and I believe 4 lengths of 3-inch hose that failed. So we're looking to replace those. Additionally, we have some members that turnouts are not in date. Having new firefighter ones also brings the requirement of having them have in-date turnouts, so that when they go in a burning building, they're in date turnouts. So we have 4 members that need turnouts, and then a couple of pairs of turnouts that just got worn through from use, and some fire boots we need to purchase. And then bed replacement. Last year we replaced 3 beds. We still have 5 to go. And so we've exceeded the municipality's bid replacement cycle for fire stations. So we'd like to replace those. All these items are under municipal contracts that we use as well.
Hey, do we have any questions about this? Yeah, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I support this.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we have no questions, excuse me, we have no questions from the board or online. All right. Well, in light of that, let's do a roll call vote for supporting this.
I think you need.
Oh, we need a motion.
Motion and second.
Excuse me, we need a motion.
I would like to make a motion to support the resolution of support for the annual replacement of fire department hose, tools, and turnouts and vents.
I'll second.
Okay, excellent. Now we have no further discussion. Let's have a roll call vote. Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, Nick Cruz,
Yes.
Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Amanda Tuttle,
Yes.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chief Preston.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for remaining standing. Let's move right on, and rather than having me read out loud, I'll just have you address this. How about that?
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, that's fine. This next resolution is for support of replacement command vehicle. In 2002, we identified that we had 3 command vehicles to replace. We were able in 2002 to replace, and at that time, the fire board approved those, and we came into these same presentations, resolutions at Board of Supervisors. In 2002, we were able to get 2 of the command vehicles funded by SEMT money, which was federal Medicare pass-through money. We haven't received any monies like that since then, as the municipality is keeping that for other EMS projects. But we were able to, at that point, replace 2 out of the 3 not using Girdwood funds. And at that time, we ripped out of the other command vehicle a lot of the equipment that was in it when it was utility 41. So we took out the status board, the data terminal, all that, thinking that it would probably just be a year, but we got a new one and we would put that into service. So we would save some money there. So it's now 2026. And so we really need to address this. And so I'm coming back to ask again for support to replace that vehicle. There is money in the 406 account to do this. And I also forwarded to Kyle today, Kyle, the replacement schedule for our vehicles.
Yes, I don't think we have that in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I forwarded him the replacement schedule for all the vehicles, so you can kind of see the plan. And then I also forwarded a letter of support from the AFD fleet manager that requested that was supporting the purchase. So that's here as well, but I guess you can't see it.
We didn't get it till after the packet was published.
I just got that today. So AFD supports replacing the fleet vehicle, their light vehicles are light. If you saw the schedule, which I guess I can print, we are replacing. We're recommending a 10-year replacement cycle at 135,000 miles. The vehicle right now has 100 and something miles, and it's a 2000. That's what we're requesting to replace. It is the oldest frontline vehicle, light duty vehicle in the municipality right now compared to Chidiac and Anchorage. Anchorage placed their entire light duty fleet, light vehicle fleet in 2024. So it's the odd man out or odd vehicle out compared to Chidiac and Anchorage. So. And I have some documentation I could, if you wanted to do a strategic pause, I could go and print out the whole thing. You can see.
Thank you for all of that. For discussion's sake, I think we need a motion. Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for discussion on this topic.
That we support
That we support
the
the
resolution.
resolution. Discussion on the resolution of support for the purchase of fire department command vehicle.
Excellent.
I second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion or questions for the chief about this? Yeah.
Chief Weston, two questions, please. Who owns the 2009 vehicle that we have right now? And then what happens to it when it's disposed?
So the municipality of Anchorage owns all the vehicles, other than vehicles we purchase from grant funds, let's say, or deployment funds, like the Polaris Ranger we bought that from proceeds from wildfire deployment. So the municipality of Anchorage owns it. And with that vehicle, we will keep it in the service area and use it until it self-destructs, basically, for that vehicle. Now, tender 43, which was on that replacement schedule, which unfortunately you don't have, tender 43 is a 1999. That's a vehicle which will probably at the end of summer when fire season's over, that vehicle has end of life, but way exceeded end of life.
Yeah.
So that's a vehicle that we will turn back to Anchorage, and then they will immediately surplus it because they don't want to maintain it in the fleet.
Do you have a follow-up question about that?
Okay, so
Can I add a little clarification about that? The municipality, if we buy something with capital dollars from
Yep.
its municipality, Girdwood service area owns the vehicle.
so we would own this vehicle that this resolution supports.
Yes.
Correct.
And the one that
And so
be replacing, the municipality of Anchorage bought that.
No, we would
No,
buy it.
we buy it. So sometimes what happens is like those, like she just talked about the tender. We just give them back to Anchorage to surplus. They get pennies on the dollar for them because nobody wants them. So they'll auction them off, and then sometimes we might see that money come back, but a lot of times they're mostly just giving it away so somebody else takes it. So very common to see that auction.
And this did come up in a situation not too long ago where we talked about, like, when we send vehicles out for fire deployments, that we provide the labor, which we get money for, and then we get reimbursed for, and then we also get money for rental of the vehicles. And so I had this quite heated discussion with some individuals because they said, well, the revenue for your thing goes back to the municipality. I said, no, it goes back to the service area, right? So service area paid for that vehicle. So the service area municipality should get the money. It shouldn't go into the general fund. So we've had that discussion. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, do we have any further questions, discussions online or on board? Yes, Nick.
I'll just make a comment that looking at the schedule for replacement for other vehicles, it looks like we're not going to, it doesn't look like we're going to hit some cliff in the next couple of years of having to purchase something. And for that reason, and yeah, because this is the oldest vehicle in our fleet here, it's like almost twice as many miles as all the other ones. I support this as well.
All right, in that case, I'd like to move to a roll call vote.
Nick Cruz,
Yes.
Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Amanda Tuttle,
Yes.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Jim Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item LUC 2504-04, GHEC and LUC recommendation for GBOS to provide input and forward on draft ordinance with MOA to allow more flexibility for small homes of housing and relocatable dwelling units in the GR1, GC5 and GC8 zoning districts. I think that we have, I saw Crystal online if you wanted to speak to this. And also Brooks, so either one.
I am on the road right now, so if Brooks wants to speak up, I can talk more.
Brooks, do you want to handle this, or I'm happy to introduce it as well?
Okay, yeah,
you.
yeah, good evening, everybody. So this was originally referred to the Housing and Economic Committee by this board. Basically, we were given a copy of an ordinance that the Anchorage Assembly had approved in 2025. That Anchorage approved ordinance only pertained to the Anchorage Bowl. And what it did was, in the name of encouraging more affordable or less expensive housing, however you want to term it, they sort of loosened some of the rules applicable to relocatable dwelling units, including coming up with a new definition for what that was, which in short requires some kind of compliance with a federal code for this type of build structure, which is a form of housing that is built, off the site, off the lot, and then transported to a lot and connected up to utilities. So the most common historical version of this type of housing is manufactured housing, double wides or trailers, but not in the sense of an RV trailer, but in the sense of a residential trailer. So that came to our committee. We took a look at it, decided that it could potentially provide some benefit to the community, and came forward with this particular proposal, which suggests that we amend our current zoning code, which is in Chapter 9 of Title 21, to permit the use of relocatable dwelling units in 3 existing zones in the valley. Those zones are GC5, GC8, and GR1. GC8 is the existing trailer park across from the post office. GC5 is a chunk of land which is off Corollius Road, down past the ball fields. It's not the entire thing because there's some floodplain stuff, and there's also some part of that existing zone which I think is identified as a future park in the park plan. But there is a chunk of property within that potentially could be developed, and with this type of residential structure. And then GR1, which is an existing residential zone, which essentially is a strip on either side of Alyeska Highway, starting pretty much after the railroad bridge and continuing up through to around downtown Girdwood. And there are some vacant lots which theoretically could be used to have a relocatable dwelling unit placed on them instead of a house that is built on site, or potentially with existing structures, a relocatable dwelling unit could be added as an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, perhaps. But that would have to comply with existing, ADU requirements as well. So that's kind of the summary. It's been, I think it's been brought up at 3 land use committee meetings. It was approved at the second one, went up to the Board of Supervisors. There were some questions raised, probably at the last board meeting, which we addressed at the GHC committee meeting and again at the subsequent land use committee meeting, which I guess I could go over again if the board would likely to. Should I?
No, that's great. I think I know that we've all been exposed to this and seen this discussed a few times. So thank you. That is like a very fantastic introduction. And also, by the way, thank you. I didn't get a chance to say this to you at LUC, but I know you've done an extraordinary amount of work on this. So we really appreciate the work that GHC has done on this. I think what I'd like to do for the sake of discussion is start with a motion regarding this. One thing I want to throw out is the possibility of dividing this up. And so discussing this as GR1 separately, or sorry, GC8, GC5 and GR1 separately, unless the board feels strongly about discussing them as a package.
For discussion's sake, I would like to make a motion that the Girdwood Board of Supervisors supports the ordinance as presented with GR1, GC5, GC8 considered together.
And do we have a second?
For the sake of discussion, I'll second.
Okay, now that we have a motion on the table, would you like to speak to it first as the mover of the motion?
You know, I have questions on this ordinance as it is presented, but I would like to say regarding concerns of the GR1 zone, speaking as someone who has recently just sold what looks to many people to be a house on Alyeska Highway, originally started as 2 double-wide trailers and was transformed into the facade of a house. So the notion that these dwellings can be unsightly and will offend people visually is, I think it's a gross generalization of this housing medium and potential solution. May I continue? I'm curious as to how many permits have been issued in Anchorage since their ordinance went into effect. Are we talking 6 trailers? Are we talking 60 units that have been permitted? I'm not talking about placed, but I'm wondering if planning and zoning or any if there has been any movement in the municipality at all on this. And maybe Zach Johnson might have a answer on this, but I'm curious as to what the impact has been in the municipality of Anchorage so far.
Yeah, I don't know if we still have Zach online or if he wants to speak to that. Yes.
I'm here, and I don't have a great answer to that question. I'm not aware of a lot of new inventory coming online since we adopted that ordinance, but I would have to check with planning to get to a more confident answer.
Sorry, and I see, Ken, I see you online, but just in case that's, unless that's an answer to this question, I wanted to throw out this question just to see if by any chance, Crystal, if you know the answer to it or any approximation. Oh, sorry, looks like we're still getting Crystal online. Is that okay? Throwing it out to Crystal.
Yeah, please.
Crystal, do you have any insight on that by any chance?
She lost connection.
Oh, she
I'm
lost
so
connection.
sorry. I got off my headset and I dropped and came back. So I missed the question. Can you can the question get re-asked?
Sure, absolutely. Do you have any idea if I may restate this for a minute? Well, you're welcome to too, but I would believe the question is, do we know if the Anchorage ordinance had any significant impact, or more precisely, if we know what the impact of the Anchorage ordinance was as far as how many?
Have there been new permits issued?
Yes, okay. Have there been new permits? Do you know by any chance?
I do not know. I tend to not pay attention to what happens in Anchorage as much as I can.
Can I comment?
Yes.
I don't know any exact numbers, but I don't know if this is representative at all, but like there was an ADN article about there was a trailer park community that all the residents all their leases were up, and the developer was turning into condos and they were not turning it back into mobile homes. If that is any indication of at least the market at that park in Anchorage, that apparently a developer would rather turn it into condos than mobile home.
Yeah, that was that is the trailer park that is over there bordered by Arctic Boulevard and Benson. Kind of that zone right on that corner right there. And yeah, they're all getting torn down, it looks like.
Yes.
So I'm obviously all about affordable housing. We definitely need it here. However, I just have several hesitations about this. I just feel like there's so many unknowns because frankly, the terminology can be vague and it's not necessarily defined, so it makes me nervous. As a business owner, it makes me continuously nervous because I saw one piece about maybe making a clause with it of ensuring that sewer and water was hooked up to these dwellings. My concern about that is that as much as we need affordable housing in this community, we need adequate affordable housing. I don't want to see some housing come in where my employees are living off of a hot plate and some wine cooler as a refrigerator. And then frankly, that's been a lot of what I have dealt with. So that's my hesitation when I see the verbiage that's being used is because of my experience with my employees. I'm going to go back to several years ago. I went to give Christmas packages of food out to many of my employees and found out that over half of them couldn't even cook their food in their home because the housing that they have in this community doesn't actually have an adequate kitchen. And so on top of that, so that was heartbreaking. But then I also have concerns that a lot of those businesses in town, if somebody doesn't have running water, they can't work in our establishments. That means that they're not coming in to work compliant. And so I want to make sure that as we're tackling this affordable housing situation, that you're realizing there are requirements from the employers that must be met. And so we can throw some of this, these ideas around, but if they don't meet some of the basic minimums, I don't think it's a good idea going forward. So I just want to make sure that if we push forward with this, that we understand that I'm not interested in building more affordable housing where somebody's living off of a hot plate. I'm just not. And I'm not interested in a place where they don't even have a shower or they can't wash their own clothes. Nobody needs to be living in a dry cabin. We need affordable housing with basic amenities. That's my comment.
Thank you. Crystal, I see your hand up, but I just want to circle back around to, I didn't mean to skip over Kelly Okonak. So Kelly, did you have a comment to make before, or are you happily sitting and we can move to Crystal?
Oh, I'm happy to wait. I tried to take my hand down, but maybe I didn't.
No, you did. You did. I was just circling back to check. Crystal.
Whenever you have like the next topic, then I have a few things to say, but I'm in no hurry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Crystal, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Brooks, for the introduction. And also, I'm now parked safely that I can communicate where I'm not stressed. And just want to say that in the last GBUS meeting, it was suggested that I was the advocate particular for GR1, and I corrected that in the GHAC meeting, that actually was a result of public comment. When this was originally introduced, we had GC5 and GC8, and then as a result of public comment, we added GR1. I've attended or listened to the meetings in which this has been discussed over the last few months, and my personal opinion on it is that I did not see an outpouring of negativity towards GR1. I did see, 2 votes against it at land use this last week, but I didn't hear from many people. I asked staff at GHAC, are you getting emails that are against this? They said no. That could have changed since the GHAC meeting, which was 2 weeks ago. But in general, my thoughts on this concept in general are that if we want affordability in Girdwood, affordability for housing in Girdwood, this is a step in the right direction. And also would say that nobody is introducing any type of specific housing. So no one's saying, you know, this is hot plate. Nobody's saying they don't have a shower. This is strictly a relocatable housing dwelling unit is allowed or not allowed. And, you know, of course, there would still be other steps. And I also want to reiterate to GBOS that I'm hoping that what you're doing tonight is taking this proposed ordinance and putting it in front of the planning and zoning, you know, people, the staff. They are going to end up going through this with their fine tooth comb. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, they would then give it back to Kyle and Margaret with a staff package and say, this is the final version. Do you guys approve of this? So this would come back in front of GBOS as a final version. I would say this is a preliminary version that's submitted to them. It still would need to go through planning. It would probably still have to go through the legal department. And then it would come back to GBOS before it would go to get another planning and zoning hearing. So there's again, the Girdwood public would have an opportunity to change the outcome if they don't like what shows up on the planning and zoning's final version. So anyway, I hope that is helpful in understanding what we're expecting to pass tonight and versus next steps that are still needing to happen for this to even come to fruition. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has now that I can.
Super helpful, Crystal. Thank you. Yes, Margaret.
As I remember it, Brooks Chandler mentioned at the GHEC or maybe the land use meeting that the mobile dwelling units are regulated by federal authorities as far as what they have in them. And so because I may have misunderstood that, maybe Brooks can reiterate what he was talking about, and perhaps that would help with Amanda's concerns, which I think are reasonable, right? So anyway, just recalling that.
Okay, so circling back to Brooks, I don't know if you heard that, but would that be something that you are able to address? Basically, whether or not there are federal requirements around the relocatables?
Yeah, there certainly are when it comes to manufactured housing, and I believe that's reflected in the definition. I don't have the full draft right in front of me. But in any event, the Housing and Urban Development Agency of the federal government does regulate how manufactured housing is built. How that translates down into, you know, less traditional forms of relocatable dwelling units, I'm not 100% sure. So, you know, there's been talk of, you know, tiny homes, and I really don't know if the HUD regulations that apply to manufactured homes also apply to tiny homes or not. So that's about all I can tell you now. The draft ordinance might just cross-reference the definition that's in the Anchorage ordinance.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's very
Yeah, the
helpful.
way our zoning code works, we don't necessarily define each and every term in Girdwood's zoning code if it's already defined in the Anchorage code.
All right, excellent. Thank you for that, Brooks. I'm going to circle back around now to Kelly.
Yeah, I think this speaks to the central issue, right? So, like, if it's a manufactured home or like, you know, it's like, I think the concern that I hear is that, you know, it would be kind of outside of the comprehensive plan, you know, maintaining the mountain scene. I don't know. I think, what are we worried about? Like a shanty town, or I don't even know, right? Like but then, you know, whatever is constructed, I think still has to go through planning and zoning. It would just simply be allowed to be a relocatable unit, but it would still be subject to the definition and the regulations, is what I'm hearing. And so I guess maybe I would look to Brooks or Crystal, if you have it, for confirmation that I've got that right. Because I think that is the central issue, right? The fear that it's whatever cheap looking crap or not hot place or not livable or whatever. But if it actually adheres to some standard of livability, and then maybe that fear is mitigated. So do I have that right, Brooks or Crystal?
Yeah, this is, the Anchorage ordinance does not allow, people to throw up a shack and have an outhouse. I mean, that's not permitted.
Just clarifying, I'm just looking at the municipal code right now, and they just define it basically as something that meets federal requirements for manufactured housing. And they don't seem to go beyond that.
So what is that? You know what I mean? Like, that's the question. What is that? What is that definition?
Sure.
I think we should have that definition, that definitive definition in front of us. And then until we have that, it's ambiguous. And I would like to see clarity.
Can we just pull it up real quick? I mean, it can't be that hard to find, right?
While you're doing that, can I take a couple comments on this? Cool. I just have like a couple like sort of large scale process ideas about this. In general, I think I would support this resolution. I think for several reasons. One of them is I want to respect the effort that has already gone into this, and I want to keep that momentum going, and I want to show that back to land use committee and the people who have volunteered their time. And I want to just like set the precedent that we will do something and we will keep on moving in the right direction. I think that's important. I've heard some reasons, arguments against this, that we should wait until we do like a whole Chapter 9 rewrite to do all this. And my personal opinion is that I think that is the wrong move, and we should try and tackle these changes in baby steps, step by step. As well as, I think, to address Amanda's concerns there, I think I agree. I want clarity on that. I think time bounded, I would like to support it now because I think we will have chances later to shut it down. But I think I'm willing to trust if the Anchorage municipality, like I'm sure the assembly and they have gone through these same questions of like, what is the standard? I'm sure they don't want people cooking on hot plates in Anchorage.
You're putting a lot of trust in the municipality.
That's where I'm coming from there. I also want to say that I am in specifics of this. I would love to see changes that like simplify the code, like chapter 9 in Girdwood. And I am concerned that this is more complicated than it needs to be, in the sense of it calls out, like, why is it just calling out GR1 specifically? Like, why is that not the same as all of Girdwood? I think that has several issues, and there's several reasons why I would like for our code to become simpler. It makes it so that builders, when they're building houses, they know what they're getting into. I know I've heard, I feel like we're even having an argument now of like, what is currently allowed now? Like what code do we follow? Is it Anchorage? Is it Girdwood? Like what parts apply and where? And when we can't even understand where we're at now, it stalls us for making changes in the future. So I like how we are trying to make Title 21 changes. I think this is great. We should continue doing this. I think a big metric for how I'm going to evaluate like proposals is like, is Title 21, Chapter 9, is it going to be simpler after the change than as it is currently? And that is one reason why I don't love this. And I would love to see a follow-up. I think that is the next step that I would like to see, is move this forward, but in a follow-up, try to make it so it's not just GR1, but make it so it's Girdwood wide. And then finally, one final thing, if I can keep going, is that I would just love clarification on the language. There seems to be a little bit of self-contradiction. Kyle, I don't know if you can bring it up, if you want to show it on the screen or not. On line 97.
You're talking about?
Oh, I'm talking about our meeting packet. If I can just put the amendment of our meeting packet. On line 97, it says the added text relocatable units on individual lots are allowed in this district. And so, but then if you scroll down to line 162, it looks as though there are six sections here: A, B, C, D, E, F. And it looks to me like they added, so my question basically is, are the communities being proposed here in GR1, or is it just relocatable units as individuals in GR1? Because of the original line 92, because personally, at least I'll say, I think I'm a lot more in support of individual units on individual lots in residential areas, in the residential zoning, and I'm not in support of the communities at large. I think that is a concern that I've heard in the general residential areas. And so item G there, line 62, makes it sound as though communities are being added to GR1, but the earlier line I referenced above makes it sound like they're not, as just individual ones. And so I don't know if anyone at that meeting can elaborate if there was intention between one of those two, or if this was an accidental ambiguity. Or I'll leave it at that.
I can jump in just a little bit, and then I'll throw it to Brooks, but just one quick clarification. LUC did discuss adding GR2 to this, just one other area, and that went down, although again, we had 4 people voting. And so so I want to acknowledge that it was discussed and voted on by a handful of people. So to that point, and then I want to I see that Brooks' hand is up, so I want to give you a chance, Brooks, to respond.
Thank you. So first, with regard to the definition, I was able to scroll around the Anchorage Code, and the current definition of relocatable dwelling unit in the Anchorage Code is, this is as follows. It's one sentence: any manufactured home, mobile home, tiny home, or other type of small dwelling that can be moved and certified as safe for permanent occupancy by either HUD, which is the federal regulatory authority I mentioned, or the building official, which is a local Anchorage authority. So the existing definition is intended to avoid haphazard structures, I guess is what I would say. There are a number of specific HUD regulations. I'm not aware of whether Anchorage has any regulations specific to this type of dwelling. With regard to Nick's question, that was intentional to include relocatable dwelling unit communities within the R1, GR1, specifically because, at least in my view, I guess I can't speak for the entire committee on this, there is a parcel of land in the GR1 that is designated in the new Girdwood area plan for moderate intensity residential development. And that parcel is at the intersection of Ruan and Alyeska Highway. It's a fairly, it's certainly a larger chunk of land than an individual lot. So that's kind of why this is in here, to kind of preserve that option, not that it's likely to happen. If you look at the other lots, existing lots within the GR1, and think about even the relatively small trailer park that we have in Girdwood, it's hard to envision that any existing lot that's now in private hands would be feasible to develop as a trailer park. But it's certainly a legitimate issue for the board to consider. It's relatively easy to amend what's in front of you to delete that reference. You simply move to delete subsection G, and then it would come out, as the product that went into the planning commission. So, that's up to you, but it was included intentionally.
Thanks, Brooks.
That's Brian.
Thank you. I'm curious, first of all, if relocatable dwelling units are taxed at a different rate than primary units on a piece of property, if you will. I know that in some parts of the lower 48, when a relocatable dwelling unit goes onto a piece of property, there are requirements about how it sits on the property, including the skirting, but also that wheels need to come off of a structure before it can be placed semi-permanently. And I think should be something to consider if we're going to be talking about skirting around a unit. And then lost that last bit.
Sorry, if it comes to you.
Thank you. I'll spring into action when it does.
Do we have any other comments or questions on this besides whatever's stewing in the back of Brand's mind?
Just one more comment. So I agree with Nick. I think that's important that we move forward. It's a business strategy of mine. You should always make decisions. Making a decision is better than not making a decision. My biggest fear was coming from this, from a person who deals with affordable housing and housing issues on a day-to-day basis. As much as I want it, I don't think it's great to push something through that's a Band-Aid. I'm a root cause analysis. I want to fix the real issue. And I'm going to come back time and time again that the real issue is that HLB has never given this community commercial and industrial land, which is where we should be building affordable housing, commercial uses, industrial uses. It's where the brewery should have been built. It's where, it's where a lot of things should be built, but we don't have that land. We don't have that option in this valley. So until I see anything other than that, I think everything's a Band-Aid. That's just personally how I feel. I mean, I deal with this every day. So I'm really scared about I come from a political science, environmental science, policy background, and terminology is everything when it comes to policy. And when you've got these ambiguous terms, you can leave a lot of loopholes in there. I mean, even just listening to what Brooks just read, I was like, I could think of 15 variations to that. And that's all great. But again, I just think that it's premature. And as much as I want us to make a decision, and we do need affordable housing, I personally just don't think that this is the direction that we should go.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. I have one other remaining question. I have, it seems to me like the change to GC8 is a no-brainer because that's acknowledging what is already happening. I do have a question about the zoning change in the other districts, and in particular, I'm curious if the relocatables they're not outlawed in these areas at all, right? If I'm not mistaken, you would need a variance. Say especially if you were going to do a community of tiny homes, you would need a variance, but they're not prohibited in this area. This would be a matter of getting rid of the need for the variance. Is that correct, or am I mistaken about that? Brooks.
Thanks again. I believe you're mistaken when it comes to GC5. GC5 is a general commercial district, and under the existing zoning regulations and the description of that district, the residential use is not permitted on the ground floor. I mean, the concept of the existing rules are that you have mixed use buildings with residential on the second floor and commercial on the ground floor. Somebody told me, I have not verified this, but somebody told me that the development adjacent to the post office did in fact have to get a variance approved because they do not have commercial uses on the ground floor of that entire development. But I don't know if that's correct, but I mean, that's my reading. The reading of the code, it's pretty clear that you're not supposed to have residential on the ground floor in the GC5.
Thank you. I was actually, I should have clarified, I was kind of thinking of the GR1, but thank you. I really appreciate that attention to detail. Thanks. Crystal.
To follow up on what Brooks said, as far as the requirement for commercial below and residential above, if you were referring to the Ellis's lot, which is across from the across from the trailer park, the zoning there says commercial underneath and residential above, and that was the reason why it wasn't developed for many years, because it was cost prohibitive when the domains owned it, and then it transferred, and then they had to do a new master plan, and a master plan costs $40,000 to $80,000. So if we're trying to do affordability, paying for an $80,000 plan before you can get started doesn't help. So anyways, and then for GC5, I believe Brooks is correct. It kind of says that residential should be up above commercial. And again, this is very, very expensive type of development to have done. And in my opinion, one of the reasons why nothing's happened.
All right, thanks, Crystal. So that's for the GC5. That doesn't, that need for master plan, that doesn't apply for the GR1, right? Just to be clear.
Yeah, there's no master plan required for GR1. It's a little bit unclear whether a relocatable dwelling unit is allowed in that zone or not. Apparently, this came from someone on the committee, that you can get different answers from the planning department depending on who's answering the phone on any particular day.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments? We'll move to a vote. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Thanks. I did remember what I was going to ask, but it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to bring it up, but I want to echo what Nick brought forward, and that is his desire to respect the process that the committees that report to us have been going through and working very diligently on. However, I am going to temper that with, I have a significant amount of distrust for planning and zoning to provide a reasonable solution to anything in Girdwood. And if this moves forward to submitted to planning and zoning to mark up, it would be with great, I would be very cautious about what we asked for from planning and zoning. And if something is going to get force fed to us, that we want to just take a look at before we get it back.
All right, and Kelly, I see you have another comment as well.
Yeah, there was a comment made specific to kind of what Brian's talking about now, that we would, whatever we pass would go to P&Z, and then P&Z would give us a suggestion to approve or comment, but we didn't actually hear clarification that that is in fact how the process works. So can somebody speak to whether or not that is true, or it was kind of tossed, but then never confirmed.
I'd like to piggyback on that. I think we can get confirmation of that, but just to piggyback on that question, I also have a question about if we send something to planning and zoning, what it looks like if planning and zoning sends back with like, okay, excellent, this is all revised, and we go, oh yeah, changed our mind, right? I know we're talking a lot about how this comes back to us, but this comes back with the presumption that we've passed it and essentially pre-approved it. But I would seek clarification to both my question and Kelly's from staff.
We've been down this path. We've done more code changes in the last year than we have probably in my 14 years of being here. And what happens coming out of this body or land use or the housing and economic, I'm trying to remember what it was. We just did one in the last year down in Old Town, which expanded for more housing opportunities down there, which changed code. And basically what came out of all the committee work and the GBOS approved was sent to planning, and then planning just carried it through. And if anything really changes at P&Z, it's because it's been lobbied at the P&Z. So somebody shows up and says, no, we don't want this, or we don't want that. It gets changed that way. So what would most likely happen is that if the board drafts something here, then it becomes the responsibility of the land use supervisor to ferry it through and to watch it and to make it happen. Now, what may happen is that there could be a legal review that points out that we can't do it for some reason, or something might come out and then it gets kicked back and then we have to look at changing it or something like that. But for the most part, we've talked about code changes, and it just really is just submitting what you want done. And now GBOS, I think one of the code changes is that GBOS has the power now to submit code changes, which has happened. And so it really is write up what you want, get with a planning personnel staff, and then see it through. And if it does get changed at P&Z, it's because somebody showed up and influenced P&Z to change it. Most of the time, they're just going to run it through if GBOS is saying this is what we want.
Right, if we don't have any other questions or comments, then I'd like to move this to a vote. Do we have anyone else? All right, it's a roll call vote, please.
Nick Cruz?
Can you state exactly what we're voting on before we vote?
The motion on the table was for GBOS to support the ordinance as presented in the packet. And that motion was made by Brian Burnett and seconded by Amanda.
Okay. Nick Cruz?
Is this appropriate where we could offer amendments, or this is not?
Okay.
Well, we'd move to a vote. If you have an amendment that you'd like to offer, you can, yes, we can back it up a second and do that, because I know we're still learning process. So yes, that is okay.
Okay, thanks everyone. Sorry, I don't want to mess with the process. I'm still learning how this works. I guess I would just like to make the amendment of dropping the communities from GR1. It's the only amendment I'd like to make.
Okay, so just to clarify, you are proposing that we drop GR1 and we pass as GC5 and GC8. Okay, clear on that? That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, so do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right, in that circumstance, we will now speak to the amendment and only to the amendment. If anyone has any comments or questions about that, or we can also move to vote. But if you'd like to say amendment A, or we can move straight to the vote.
Yeah, I think this addresses two things. One of them is I've heard complaints about GR1, and the second one is just as a simplification. I don't want to have there be different regulations for the different residential zones in Girdwood. I think that it makes things simpler, and I think it also helps unify Girdwood. Like, why are they getting a different treatment along Alaska Highway than the rest of us. If the rest of us don't want this, then we should also accept that as part of what we want.
I have just one quick comment about that. One of the things that came up in the discussion about GC2, and this does not address what you're saying about in terms of the whole community, but just, I did want to clarify that there was some question about whether or not multiple relocatables could fit on the lots in GC2 because they're different lot sizes. And so there's an element of that distinction. However, it doesn't directly address what you're saying. I just wanted to add that clarification. And Brad, did you have something on?
I was just curious about how it is that by excluding GR1 from this, it increases participation throughout the community, or did I get that wrong?
That's right. That was confusing. It was as it was. I was hoping that we would then follow this up with a community-wide change to allow individual units like as ADUs. But not trying to tackle that here in the sense of trying to do small baby steps. I did not want to propose that because that felt not appropriate without that actually coming through land use and HCC to make that. I figured it would be better to reduce the scope of this and then do it consistently in a second follow-up step rather than increase the scope of this.
Okay, just so to clarify, we now have an amendment on the table to take the GR1 component out of this and have the ordinance as written, except for with that with only including GC5 and GC8. We have no further discussion on that. I'd like to put the amendment to a vote.
Would it be possible to formally amend your amendment and just say to remove GR1 from the Hosdale?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the second is fine with that.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
That was Kelly. Second is
Yeah, I'm
Kelly.
fine with that.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Amanda.
Fine with that.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
I'm fine with it.
All right, let's vote.
Okay. Nick Cruz,
Yes.
Brian Burnett,
No.
Amanda Tuttle,
No.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, now what is in front of us, I believe, is we all vote on that. So now our motion is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think we vote on this again, right?
Yes, now as amended.
As amended. Which, as amended, is exactly the same as what we just voted on.
Margaret, could you read that again?
You voted to remove GC or GR1, but I think what you need to do now is to vote in the positive for the ordinance to go forward with GC 8 and 5.
Right, sorry, learning. All right, so yes. No, and we don't have any, sorry, do we have any further discussion or questions on this, or can we vote? Let's do a roll call vote on moving this forward as amended. Yes. Brian.
So moving this forward as amended moves it into the queue for planning and zoning to further review what we're asking for.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what will happen is Jennifer would take it to planning zoning or take it to planning staff and work with them to get it done. And then shepherd it through and make sure it comes out what we approved. Okay, ready? Okay. Nick Cruz,
Yes.
Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Amanda Tuttle,
No.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
No.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, excellent. Got that done. Let's move on.
Yeah. I go to the bathroom.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna have a moment of personal privilege. We'll be back in 3 minutes. You don't have to rush.
Run.
We're taking a moment. Be back at 9:32.
Quick commission for those online, intermission.
Too much. Great idea.
Wow.
9:32.
Rest of the businesses are taking, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay, ours.
Good.
Mike's on.
All right, back on. No new business. Item number 10, MOA GDOS quarterly meeting, July 27th, 4 p.m. at the Anchorage City Hall. And we have our agenda from the last time, and we will review and see what we need to add in addition.
I don't know if we talked about this in the meeting, but we did add in about the EMS contribution increase for 2027. So we're hoping to get ahead of that early. It has been flat now for a couple of years. So looking towards the administration to address that.
So what we're looking at is this is the draft agenda.
Correct. And this meeting is until the end of July. So we're just showing what's been on here so far. So if you have any ideas, you can send them to us. We'll write them down and we'll have you guys confirm it next month.
Right, excellent. Does anyone have anything they want to add or mention right now?
the meeting.
Okay.
I would like to talk about the watershed meeting department that we are hoping to do. I would like to add that to that.
Okay.
Right, if there's no further comments on this, I'd like to move on to the next item under new business, the GVSA budgets 2027.
We just introduced this as it's going to be an item here for the next couple of months. So we're just getting it as new business. We'll start next week.
Yeah, perfect. All right. 12 GVSA projects for MOA Tourism Improvement Program. This is I believe we're just introducing this as well.
Correct.
Ask this question to DHEC too, right, to discuss.
Correct.
All right.
Like, quick clarification. I thought that was also to go to public safety. We had talked about that, about coming up with some ideas for that tourism funding. not just GHCC. Is that correct?
The next one is for public safety, IT.
Oh my gosh, I apologize.
Yeah, excellent. Good eye. So yes, public safety IT budget. And then actually the tips thing is a little bit different. That is also something that could be discussed at PSAC. So yes.
Okay, yeah. So I think, clarification? There's been a little bit of confusion. I've spoke a couple times about this. When the mayor was here last month, she mentioned in our discussion, and it was told to bring it up at PSAC, about potential funding from tourism money. And I mentioned, some bathrooms is what came to mind. That was the first one, I think. I just want to make sure that when I'm speaking about what I'm talking about, I have created a list. That was kind of my action item out of that last meeting. It was for that tips. And I want to make sure that when I speak, I'm definitely speaking separately from the public safety IT budget. I'm speaking about that tourism funding. Thank you.
Yeah, she did specifically mention, I think that there's some overlap here and we don't really have time for them to go through. So it's fine to have one committee discussing it because we don't have time for it to be sluiced through one committee and then go to the other in order to be ready in time. I think that this is all going to come up very quickly because we don't have a lot of these joint MOA GBOS meetings. And so we want to make sure we discuss it with them because those budget requests or monetary request is going to need to be in the fall, right? By no later than October, but I got the impression you needed it in September. So anyway, I think it's great. The more committees we have discussing it, the better. Let's come up with some ideas and get some of that quote unquote extra bed tax money headed back where it came from. Okay. If there's nothing else on that, oh, sorry, Kelly.
Oh, I was just, are we forming a central list as a GBOS or like what is our, because we have some from GHCC, Amanda's got some from PSAC, like can we start putting these in a formal list that we just keep running so that we don't lose them, or what's our plan there?
We don't have them from PSAC and GHCC, so we have to get them from the committees first. And then,
okay, but what does it mean to get them from the committees? Because I mean, GHCC had a few, which is the RV park study, bathrooms in South Town site, a visitor center. How do we get those formally on the list? Do I say that here and now they're on the list?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we're asking the committees to prioritize and also to take a look at the TIPS program and see what they think out of their list of projects that they're working on, what they think best suits. And like I said, we have a little bit of overlap here between the two, but we do have another GBOS meeting. So we can take another look at this after the next GHCC meeting. So we'll be able to look at this before.
I guess my question is, what is the process by which the committees submit recommendations to GBOS?
Motion,
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but this is new business now, so it would be at our next GBOS meeting that we would put motions to submit projects for consideration to the GBOS list because we can't do a motion on new business.
Well, just a clarification. So this is new business right now, but we don't actually need to vote on this until August or September. So
I know I'm over 40 and I forget things. I need to take the list that I'm supposed to bring to GBOS from GHCC and get it out of my brain and onto a list somewhere, or else it's going to get lost. And I'm asking how we do that because Kelly, remember for 2 months just isn't going to work.
Can you just email us and then we'll start that list?
Yeah, we can do that.
And then remind your committee that you're with, which is Housing Economic, to hopefully pass a motion that you can bring back to GBOS.
Okay, but we're not going to meet again till August. So will that be soon enough?
That will be soon enough.
Okay, then we'll put it on the next GHCC agenda to pass a motion to formally submit it to GBOS in time for GBOS to vote on it. Okay. Margaret, can you put that on our agenda for GHCC?
Margaret has
it is an old business item. So
okay, perfect.
GHCC said take that and make a motion out of it. but I'm not to complicate this further, but this is going to be a topic that's part of your budget work sessions. So I think that it will be up to GBOS to look at what the parameters are of the funding mechanism and make sure that you're pushing forward whatever has the strongest potential. Because I think that you are going to be a lot more aware of some of the intricacies having to do with, say, Visit Anchorage, having a dog in the fight on what gets funded, and the information that you have already received from the mayor about what kinds of projects are likely to be funded. And I know that maybe that seemed like it was broad, but what I heard was pretty narrow. So I really think that they're asking your committees to come up with ideas on things that could be funded from, money that comes from outside of Girdwood tax base is one thing, but really figuring out what has the best shot at it is probably something that you guys are going to be more adept at, potentially.
Well, that is already on our agenda item for talking to the Muni in July. And so that July meeting will be before we put in any requests, right?
So the items after number 1 on the MOA GBOS meeting are all just ideas from past meetings.
Okay.
Only number 1 has been requested to be added to that agenda.
All right, I thought I saw tips on there. Yes, I did.
Yes, that's
Okay.
because you talked about it at your last meeting.
Yeah, that needs to stay on.
Well, there you go. And probably add the other one too.
Well, number 8 is MOA capital funding that's the IT fund.
Yeah, sorry, when I asked if this was the draft agenda, what I was asking is this the draft agenda? And I thought the answer I got was yes.
It is.
It is
Yeah.
the beginning of the draft agenda.
Okay, all right,
This is
let's move on.
business.
Okay, let's move on. So we have new business discussed. Do we have anything else that we need to talk about in terms of this, or for the good of the order? I believe we have reached the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Or sorry, Nick, I did not mean to overlook you. I'm sorry. Did you have something you wanted to add on this item?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I second.
All right. I think you just seconded a motion we don't have.
I'll motion.
I
Thank you.
motion. I
Okay.
move.
All right, let's go,
Or
guys.
second or whatever is necessary.
Thank you for
Wherever we're at.
enjoy the Yukon territory. Sorry, I didn't know what we were doing. Okay.
So I do want